This is Land of Havilah, Zechariah 3. At the time Zechariah dreamed all this, it was 520 B.C., and Joshua the son of Jehozadak was high priest of Israel. In the coming phase of Zechariah's vision, the angel who's been escorting him from one scene to another will take him now to witness the proceedings in a heavenly courtroom. Joshua the high priest will be standing before the court as the defendant. Joshua is still most alive in the flesh as one of Zechariah's contemporaries, but Zechariah sees him standing in heaven, wearing filthy clothing, indicating he's full of sin. It could be Joshua's own sin, but since he's a representative of Israel as high priest and responsible under the law of Moses for removing the sin of Israel and taking it on himself, it could be Israel's sin on him. The Lord God will be the judge in the vision, and Satan will be standing to Joshua's right, accusing him. Fortunately, God will come to Joshua's defense. Zechariah will dare to speak up during the proceedings. Verse 1. He showed me Joshua the high priest standing before Yahweh's angel, and Satan standing at his right hand to be his adversary. Yahweh said to Satan, Yahweh rebuke you, Satan. Yes, Yahweh who has chosen Jerusalem rebuke you. Isn't this a burning stick plucked out of the fire? Now Joshua was clothed with filthy garments and was standing before the angel. Comment now speaking of Yahweh's angel, who is the Lord God and the judge, verse 4. He answered and spoke to those who stood before him, saying, Take the filthy garments off him. To him he said, comment meaning to Joshua the high priest, God said, still in verse 4, Behold, I have caused your iniquity to pass from you, and I will clothe you with rich clothing. Comment now Zechariah will speak up, verse 5. I said, Let them set a clean turban on his head. So they set a clean turban on his head and clothed him, and Yahweh's angel was standing by. Yahweh's angel protested to Joshua, saying, Yahweh of armies says, If you will walk in my ways, and if you will follow my instructions, then you also shall judge my house, and shall also keep my courts, and I will give you a place of access among these who stand by. Comment, let's review what just happened. In verse 2, Yahweh's angel, which is God, rebuked Satan for accusing Joshua. God implied that Satan should know better, that this accusation isn't going anywhere because Joshua is a burning stick plucked out of the fire. In other words, it's already been determined that God has saved him. He might still be smoking and burning, but God's chosen him, reached down, plucked him out of the fire, and his choosing has settled the matter. Joshua certainly still looks a mess, smoking and burning and wearing filthy garments, but he'll be okay because the hand of God is on him. The vision becomes even richer when we realize that Joshua is only the English translation of his name. His name is more accurately in Hebrew Yeshua. And by the way, Jesus of Nazareth wasn't really Jesus, that's just the English of his name. In Aramaic and Hebrew, it's Yeshua. He's Yeshua, our high priest. It's no coincidence that Joshua and Jesus have the same underlying name and that they're both high priests. The scriptures are layered with meaning, the underlying layer here being that Jesus bore our sins, and therefore Jesus was standing filthy before God because of our sin that he took on, was accused by Satan in the throne room of God, but God rebuked Satan, saying, You should know better, this is my chosen one. So if anyone was wondering why Jesus didn't spend eternity in hell for taking on our sin, it's because God rebuked Satan about it. But getting back to the surface of the vision and not its deeper layers, in verse 4, God said to the courtroom attendants, Take the filthy garments off him, and to Joshua, I have caused your iniquity to pass from you and will clothe you with rich clothing, meaning God's giving Joshua clothing worthy of his innocence and worthy of the honor due him. In verse 5, Zechariah was enthusiastic about this, and he pitched in and gave him a clean turban too. A turban was part of the high priest official garments, Exodus 28:4. In verses 6 and 7, God warned Joshua that he should walk in his ways and follow his instructions so that he would allow him to function as a proper high priest with access to the court of heaven and even be a keeper of Yahweh's court. All this has double meaning on earth and in heaven of Joshua and of Jesus. We know Jesus always delighted in the fear of God and kept to those instructions of God, Isaiah 11:3. Therefore he qualified to preside over the court of heaven and to function as our high priest, our defender, and the bearer of our sins. Going on now, verse 8. Hear now, Joshua the high priest, you and your fellows who sit before you, for they are men who are a sign. For behold, I will bring out my servant, the branch. Comment, here's the proof that Joshua was symbolic of Jesus in this chapter, that God said in verse 8 we just read that Joshua and the fellows who sit before him, which are the other priests under his authority, are signs. They're signs of what? Signs that God will bring out his servant, the branch, which is Jesus. The first clue that Jesus is the branch comes in Genesis 40, verse 10. It's the first mention of the word branch in the Bible. In that chapter, Joseph was in the dungeon, and one of his fellow prisoners was the former cupbearer to Pharaoh. The cupbearer had a dream in which he saw a vine which sprouted branches. The branches produced flowers and then grapes. The cupbearer saw himself squeezing the grapes into the cup and giving the cup to Pharaoh. Joseph said the meaning of the dream was that the cupbearer would be saved and restored to his position to serve the king. As we dig into the layers of that one, we realize it was a parable of Christ, that his blood, which came from the fruit, which came from the branches, which came from the vine, his blood is salvation for us. So it was a parable of salvation through Christ, which is the branch. Now, someone might argue that's a flimsy basis on which to claim the branch in prophecy is Jesus, but it's an established fact that the branch is indeed the Messiah in Isaiah 11:1, Jeremiah 23:5, and 33:15. And what's the meaning of the name Yeshua? Translated to English, the name Yeshua means God is salvation, Matthew 1:21. After God said in verse 8 he would bring out his servant the branch, then verse 9, For behold the stone that I have set before Joshua, on one stone are 7 eyes. Behold, I will engrave its engraving, says Yahweh of armies, and I will remove the iniquity of that land in one day. In that day, says Yahweh of armies, you will invite every man his neighbor under the vine and under the fig tree. Comment, let's remind everyone what Yahweh of armies means. It's what most Bibles translate as Lord of hosts, because most English translations convert the Hebrew word Yahweh into Lord, and the underlying word for armies could also be translated hosts, so Yahweh of armies is the same as Lord of hosts. And what are the hosts? It's the multitude of angels, that they're soldiers of God, Matthew 8:9, and it might include us, that we're soldiers of God, 2 Timothy 2:3. But about the prophecies of verses 8 and 9 we just read, it's easy to give detailed explanations of prophecies that have already been fulfilled, such as prophecies about Jesus' first coming. We know all the details about that, and therefore it's easy when we see a prophecy about it to fill in the details. But ahead of time, from just reading the prophecies about the first coming, it was difficult to impossible to see the details. So it is in verses 8 and 9 that these prophecies are yet to be fulfilled, therefore we lack detail. What is clear in verses 8 and 9 is that in one day's time, Yahweh will remove the iniquity of the land, meaning the promised land or the world. This will usher in an age of peace and rest under our vines and fig trees. In verse 9, Yahweh set a stone before Joshua. The stone had 7 eyes, meaning it's a very watchful stone. The 7 eyes on the stone are watching over the words engraved on the stone, which is that God will remove the iniquity of the land in one day. God's watching over that particular word to perform it. He has set in stone that he will make it happen. He's ever watchful about it and won't forget about it. There will be peace. It'll happen in one day, that there'll be a transition from the smoking and flaming we see all around us to the peace of sitting under our vines and fig trees with our neighbors. It'll happen just that fast. We'll know more details about it after we see it. Zechariah 4 is next.